What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. Blizzard just recently announced the brand new upcoming tank hero Ramattra, and already we're starting to see even more information on the hero, such as screenshots of what he looks like in-game, as well as a bit more information regarding his kit and abilities, through various journalists and news outlet sites that got to interview some of the Overwatch developers. So in this video today, I want to talk a little bit about some of the information we have in one particular article, which goes a bit more in depth with what we can expect from the hero and his abilities, and then also analyze these new images and screenshots we have to try to discern as much as possible about this upcoming new hero and everything he has to offer. So the article I'm taking a look at here is coming from GamerWK.com, which is an outlet I'm not particularly familiar with. I don't know if I've ever really read any of their articles before, and it is also worth noting that this article is originally in Indonesian, so there's going to be some sort of funky grammar and stuff going on here, but keep in mind that's because it's been translated. I won't be reading through everything discussed in this article, but I will be focusing on the key important details, and the first question I want to read through is, what abilities does Ramattra have? We don't want to give full details just yet. There is a lot of information that will come ahead of Season 2, but one thing we can talk about is that Ramattra has two forms, which makes them a concept for a hero that hasn't been done before. First, he has an Omnic form where he does a bit of stabbing gameplay. He protects his teammates and has his staff as a weapon. Second, he has the Nemesis form where he really changes and becomes much bigger, much more threatening, and can hit the enemy on a larger scale. Can you talk more about the gameplay? What is the ideal situation for him? Who synergizes with him? We don't want to go into detail about each of his abilities here. We'll tell you a little. For the Omnic form, there's a lot of poking gameplay, and the player needs to decide when to switch to the Nemesis form. When they turn a corner where they then start rushing at the enemy team, it was a very important decision to make, and it is a very important decision to coordinate as well. To think about synergy, Lucio suits him. Lucio can speed you through, helping Ramattra to get into positions he wants to get into. On the other hand, Ramattra is a big target, so think about who can take advantage of it. Maybe someone who can flank it from behind, Ana with sleep darts, and others. Now, this is getting a bit more into the abilities specifically. Ramattra has two forms, Omnic and Nemesis. Can you elaborate a bit about the concept or idea behind the execution on the Omnic version and Nemesis's abilities? From a gameplay perspective, they're really going to be completely different. He does have a few different abilities depending on the form, so you will not only feel it through Ramattra's gameplay mechanics, but also visually. Ramattra, when in his Omnic form, he's not that big. He looks pretty normal like a tank, but then when he transforms, you'll actually see a really massive visual change. Since Ramattra has both Omnic and Nemesis forms, does he have two ultimate abilities? No, he only has one ultimate, and what's more, the change ability isn't the ultimate. This is very clearly specified here by saying that the change from the Omnic to Nemesis form is a regular skill/ability, more on par with how Bastion has his shift ability to turn into the tank minigun. Also, like Bastion, it sounds like while in the Nemesis form, you have a limited duration before you're forced back into the Omnic form. So, a bit of a clarification there, the Nemesis form is not his ultimate, but rather is a base part of his kit where he activates the ability, and seemingly, regardless of whether he's in his Omnic or Nemesis form, he has the same ultimate. There's not a unique ultimate for either of the two forms. Now those are all the key questions which got answered regarding this character. However, there were a number of screenshots included in this article as well, showing off the character in-game and even giving us a sneak peek of his character HUD. So I do want to run through these as well real quickly because I think there is a lot of information we can garner from these images. So first up are just a couple images showing what his Nemesis form actually looks like, and from the looks of it, he gains like a second pair of arms out of his shoulders, or perhaps from behind him, that become his new limbs, basically. It looks like his normal legs turn into the legs of his Nemesis form, but you can see his normal Omnic arms just folded over, crossed in the center, while he has these new big Nemesis arms now that stick out the side. So I'm rather curious to see what the actual animation for this ability is going to end up looking like. Are they just going to manifest out of nowhere? Are they going to like unpack from his back or something? I don't know. I'm really excited to see what he actually looks like in game with the actual animations tied to this ability, because I'm hoping it's going to be pretty cool looking. I certainly have high expectations for it. Next up, we get an image of one of his abilities in action, which is some sort of cylindrical purple field or like AoE type ability. Now, I'm assuming this is some sort of offensive attack ability since he's using it on a Tracer and Echo who are shooting at him, so I assume those are enemy characters and thus he's using it as an offensive ability as opposed to some sort of like shielding ability for his allies, since we do know he has a barrier ability of some kind, which we don't actually get to see in action in any of these pictures, but we do get the icon for in one of the upcoming images, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So whether the ability we see here is some sort of AoE damage burst or some other thing along those lines, I honestly have no idea, but it does seem to have a significant amount of verticality to it as well, such that it can probably be used to hit airborne heroes like Echo, Pharah, or anyone else. Now this next image is the first of two in-person perspective images we get of someone actually playing Ramattra, where not only do we get to see some of his abilities actually in action, but we can also learn a bit about the abilities that we don't actually see on screen based off of their icons on the HUD. Most notably in this image, we can see him using that same purple field ability I just mentioned previously, which, judging by the icons in the bottom right, looks like it's going to be his E ability. Aside from the E ability, we can also see to the left of it, left shift has a buff sort of robot arm. That seemingly is his transformation ability, where he transforms from the Omnic form to Nemesis form. And the right mouse button looks like an image of some sort of barrier, so I'm assuming the alternate fire or right mouse button if you're playing on PC is going to be whatever his barrier ability ends up being. Additionally, we can see that his staff, which is in fact his primary weapon, has a total of 100 ammo. However, we don't really see it actually being used, at least not in this image, so we don't know yet what exactly type of weapon it is. Is it a beam weapon? Is it like a burst fire, hit scan, projectile? We don't know any of those details yet at this moment, but we do get a decent amount of information just based off of what we can see on the HUD here. Additionally, we can see on the left side Ramattra's health bar, which appears to be 450 health total with no armor or shields, and unfortunately the ultimate icon in the middle isn't fully charged, and thus we don't get any sort of icon there to try to deduce what his ultimate ability is. Moving on to the next image though, we see an in-person view of Ramattra during his Nemesis form, which we can see has quite a few visual changes. First and foremost, we can see his two arms being held up on screen in front of him, which actually look like they're in the form of some sort of defensive ability, almost like a Doomfist power block type ability, which once again, looking at the icons on the HUD in the bottom right, looks like that's going to be his right mouse button or alternate fire ability while in Nemesis form. We do know that the Omnic and Nemesis forms have different abilities tied to them, so it's really awesome that we got a picture of both forms here from these images so that we can compare and contrast the two respectively. The left shift and E abilities appear to remain the same. Obviously the left shift, which is turning into Nemesis form, that one's not going to change since it's just being active while he's in Nemesis form. But then we can also see that his purple field cylinder type ability, the E ability, appears to be consistent between the two versions. So regardless of whether he's in Omnic mode or Nemesis mode, it seems like he can still use this ability, and it's presumably the same. We can also see on the right side that his staff is now replaced by just an infinite ammo fist, since his primary fire while in this form is just dealing punches. And also we see that he apparently gains additional health while in Nemesis form, since he now has a total of 600 HP as opposed to 450, with a significant chunk of that now being armor. So this is presumably very similar to Winston's Primal Rage, where he just gains some extra health upon activating the ability. Also, if we look in the center of the screen, we can actually see a little circular timer, which appears to be a quarter way depleted and is currently at 6 seconds. Now, it's possible that this is a timer signifying how long he can hold up the block ability, which he seems to be actively using in the screenshot, but more likely I think that's signifying the total duration of Nemesis form itself, since as we learned earlier, the ability has a limited duration before he's forced back into Omnic form. So considering the depletion amount in the 6 seconds, it seems that he'll likely have a total of 8 seconds that he can spend in Nemesis form, with the ability to cancel it by pressing the shift ability button again, as signified by the cancel left shift icon here. Once again, unfortunately, the ultimate icon is not fully charged unless we don't get to see what that actually looks like, and so we don't get any more information pertaining to what exactly the ultimate's going to end up being. That's the one ability which it seems we still have no information regarding, so hopefully we end up learning something more about that sometime soon. Another quick image we have here is just Ramattra shooting his primary fire. This is another in-game screenshot, but not from his perspective, so we don't get a great idea, once again, of what sort of weapon the staff actually is. It's hard to tell from this image if he's firing out a beam or a projectile or a hit scan. We can't really tell, unfortunately. But it is nice to just have another image of him because not only does the staff look really cool when he's using it like this, but we do get at least a little hint of the visual effect of what his primary fire is presumably going to end up looking like. And the last image we have of him is just a cinematic still of him standing in the mountains of Nepal looking back at the camera. A very cool image, but unfortunately doesn't really give us any more insight into his kit and abilities. So on that note, that's everything new we've learned about Ramattra and his kit at this point in time. Again, I'm sure there'll be much more information coming out over the days and weeks ahead, so I'll be sure to keep you all up to date with future videos talking about the new hero. But in the meantime, let me know your thoughts on this new information regarding Ramattra by dropping a comment down below. What do you think the various abilities we've seen in these screenshots are going to actually end up doing? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback, and otherwise be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, hit up that bell icon, and come join my Discord server to hang out and never miss any of my future Overwatch content, and special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible. If you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below, and otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.